This is Professor Rogers. This presentation is on teams and their use in criminal justice settings. One can tell a lot about when a person studied business or management by their understanding of the function and operation of teams. For instance, in the 1980s, many organizations still operated as command and control hierarchies, using the guidelines of the theories of bureaucratic and administrative management. For them, the question, who's in charge, had to have a definitive answer. Team structures in this era were largely to make employees feel good because they had input. However, at the end of the day, there was still an upper-level manager in charge of the team, and the boss got the recognition if the team performed well. This focus on the boss did not mean individuals didn't get rewarded with bonuses or promotions. A smart boss would make sure that those individuals who contributed a lot to the team got rewarded, and in corporate cultures the boss often made sure the star performers rose with the successful boss in order to keep the high-performing team together at the next level. Today we have a very different understanding of what teams can do. The claim is that working as a team can actually improve the organization's performance. People should be rewarded not because they are individual stars, but because they contributed to a successful team. It turns out when we say the word team, we are not always talking about the same way of working. We will look at 5 different kinds of teams and show an example of their use in criminal justice settings. The first kind of team is the self-managed work group. To understand how this team is different from teams in the past, we can use this simple diagram. On the bottom axis, we have the responsibility for making decisions. In some teams, this responsibility rests with the boss. Others on the team members themselves. On the left axis, we see who is rewarded for the team's outcomes. Again, we see the contrast between the boss and the team members. Old-style teams can be found in the lower left-hand corner of the graph. They are boss-centric. However, modern-day self-managed teams are in the upper right-hand corner of the graph because decision-making and rewards fall to the team, not the boss. Team policing, which is discussed in the Petrick article on the St. Paul experiment, is an example of a self-managed work group in a criminal justice setting. In team policing, the strategies to address crime and build community relations in a neighborhood do not come from the chief or other high-level administrators. Instead, decision-making is pushed down to the precinct or substation. Everything I have seen about team policing says it is effective, but teams take a lot of work. I will discuss this issue of preparing people for teamwork later in the presentation. As a result, team policing experiments seem to end when the grant money runs out, simply because they take so much work. The experiment in participatory management in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, described in the Steinhelder and Westerwald article, is also a self-managed work group given management decision-making authority. What is striking about the Broken Arrow experiment is how the experiment is not only associated with improved feelings among employees, but resulted in a tangible improvement in crime fighting and crime prevention using metrics like arrests and clearances. A second kind of team is a cross-functional team. In cross-functional teams, each person is assigned an individualized task that contributes to the performance of the team as a whole. The team cannot function well if one task is missing. Examples of cross-functional teams include football teams and healthcare teams in rehabilitation and assisted living settings, the latter being depicted on this slide. Unit management, which is used in correctional settings, is a kind of cross-functional team. The strategy is used among rehabilitation and counseling staff where they set their own standards and strategies for treatment separate, rather than relying on the warden to dictate them. Similarly, cell blocks within a prison can also be run using the unit management concept. For example, death row at the state penitentiary in Chillicothe is run as a unit, in which the officers determine things like daily schedules of activities independent of the warden. The third type of team is the cross-trained team. This type of team has become common in automobile and electronics manufacturing. Rather than the old assembly line approach in which one person has a single function, like putting in a certain screw, a person is part of a team in which each person is trained to do a variety of related tasks. For example, a single person might install the entire car radio system rather than just turn a single screw. This type of team is beneficial in two respects. First, it removes the monotony previously associated with certain jobs. Second, it improves productivity. The old assembly line moved only at the pace of the slowest worker in the line, whereas a cross-trained team allows faster workers to move at a faster pace without waiting for the slower ones. The training of police officers to handle individuals with mental illnesses is built around the same principles as the cross-trained team. Incidents of unnecessary police brutality frequently occur when officers are dealing with mentally ill individuals, simply because officers don't know what to do. One solution is for the officers to stop and call in a special team of people to deal with the situation, but this approach is often time-consuming and not practical. Continuing education programs are intended to give officers a small amount of training to deal with mentally ill individuals, improving the service to these individuals as well as reducing incidents of brutality. The fourth type of team is the modular response team. This type of team comes into existence for a particular situation and then dissolves when the situation no longer exists. A prime example of this type of team is the Incident Command System, which takes charge of first responders in a serious event like a natural disaster or huge explosion. The system brings together a number of parts previously unrelated. For example, police departments and fire departments operate under different command and control structures, but in a declared emergency, the incident commander becomes the head of everyone. You might think that this kind of team is inefficient because the parts are not used to working together. In a way, this is true, and this explains why first responders engage in practice drills so that they know what to do when certain incidents occur. The final team structure is the matrix organization. Matrix organizations break the rule about the unity of command and have individuals reporting to two or more individuals. In the organization chart here, we are looking at a sales organization. Each individual has two bosses, one tied to the department where the person works, and the other tied to the type of project to which the person is assigned. In criminal justice, this is the structure of multi-agency task forces. Each person reports to one's own agency as well as to the task force commander. We have seen in this presentation that there are 5 different types of teams and discussed their use in criminal justice settings. My closing comments will be on implementation. When should teams be used? They don't belong in every situation. Imagine going to McDonald's and ordering a Big Mac. The manager then calls the entire staff together to discuss how to make your Big Mac. They have this team meeting for each and every customer who comes into the store. Of course, this use of teams is ludicrous. When the task to be accomplished is clear, there is no need to organize a team. However, when there is a problem to solve or some kind of ambiguity to the situation, a team is often a great way to find a solution. In marketing organizations, for example, people work almost exclusively in teams because of the subjective nature of the product. Here is what we must remember about criminal justice. New strategies of policing, such as community policing and problem-oriented policing, require the use of problem-solving techniques. And police and correctional officers frequently must use discretion because of the limits of policies and procedures in many situations. Thus, teamwork in criminal justice settings may often be preferred to the traditional command and control hierarchy. Finally, let's recognize that teams take a lot of work. The team needs a charter or mission. Resources need to be allocated to make sure that the team is effective. Participants need to be carefully selected for the skills that they bring to the team. and teams need ongoing support as they pursue their mission. Once we have all this, we need also to remember that it may take a long period of time for the team to learn to work together. These reasons are why teams are not used in criminal justice organizations as frequently as they might. Even though teams are effective in criminal justice, traditional command and control hierarchies have shown little patience in allowing them the time or resources needed to be successful.